Today I am here to give my thoughts and to talk about one of the biggest leaks / rumors / anything Bethesda related that has come out of the Bethesda sphere in a long time. Which isn't really a rumor anymore, let's be honest. It's more than a rumor. It's like a half-truth, 95% true rumor. If the leaks are true, we are looking at a pretty remarkable remaster in Unreal Engine 5 being developed and led by Virtuos Studio. This could be huge, but of course, with any remake or remaster, there's always a ton of questions. There's concerns, and naturally, rumors flying around about how it's going to be announced and when we might actually get to play it. So let's break it all down, okay? I'm just going to get my thoughts up there about the gameplay changes, the graphics, the potential announcement plans, and the big question is this going to be a dream come true, or should we just start preparing for disappointment? Which, let's be honest, with Bethesda lately, if you're on the same kind of wavelength that I'm on, part of me wants to prepare for disappointment. Alright, so let's talk about what's actually being remade, okay? According to the leaks, this isn't just Oblivion with a fresh coat of paint like everybody thought it would be. This game is supposedly being quote-unquote rebuilt, which, come on, not rebuilt. It's slightly being rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5. I can't talk today, sorry. This means better lighting, improved textures, way more detailed environments, all that bullshit. Cyrodiil could finally get that level of graphic polish that most modern RPGs have, with cities feeling more alive, forests more dense and immersive, hopefully, dungeons having an actual atmosphere instead of that weird bluish tint everywhere. Character models are also supposedly getting a massive upgrade, which, honestly, that is needed. Oblivion has some of the most terrifying NPC faces in gaming history, and if the remake gives us that more natural looking characters with actual expressions that don't make them look like they're possessed, that alone would be a win. But it's not just visuals, gameplay that's getting changes too, and this is where things could either get interesting or controversial. I have seen in a few places, not all places reflect this, but I have seen in a few Reddit threads and other things and a few Twitter threads that the leaks suggest that Oblivion's combat is getting a rework, and if the rumors are accurate, it's kind of taking some inspiration from Souls-like mechanics. Now, before anybody panics, that doesn't necessarily mean Elden Ring. You know what I mean? It does suggest, though, that blocking might be a more timing-based, stamina management could play a larger role, and combat in general, I hope, will feel weightier and more skill-driven. Oblivion's combat, just base game, while it's fun, in its own way, it was always just a bit floaty. Weapons didn't really feel like they had any impact. Archery felt weak. Magic was just spammable. No real depth to anything. If the remake tightens things up and makes fighting feel more rewarding without completely abandoning what made Oblivion fun, I think that could be a major upgrade. But just like with everything, there's a risk with changing combat. If they change the combat too much, does it still feel like Oblivion? Is it just going to feel like a completely different game that just happens to take place in Cyrodiil? That's something that some of the fans are worried about. I'm worried about that. If you take out that floaty combat, what is it going to feel like? A lot of these little tiny things like that we really take for granted, and once you remove those things, it may feel like a whole different game, like a completely different game in a bad way. Another big rumor is that the remake might restore cut content from the original game. Now, if you've played any Bethesda RPG, you know that there's always a ton of content that gets left on the cutting room floor. In Oblivion, this includes entire quest lines, NPCs that were supposed to have bigger roles, and even some scrapped locations like dungeons, etc. If the remake actually brings some of this back, that could be huge. Imagine expanded guild quest lines, more side quests, and new areas to make the world feel even bigger and richer. There's also speculation that they could expand the role of certain characters, making the world feel more reactive and alive. One of my big questions is, why Unreal Engine 5? One of the weirdest parts of this whole leak is that it's being built in UE5 instead of the Creation Engine, like the new one that they have. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, I haven't really seen that much controversy, but I mean, that's a big deal. But I mean, Bethesda has been using versions of the same engine for decades, and while it's of course outdated in some ways, one of the biggest benefits is that it's insanely moddable. If Oblivion is being rebuilt in Unreal 5, what does that mean for modding support? I mean modding is a massive part of Bethesda games. The Oblivion modding community is still active today, nearly 20 years after launch. If you go on Nexus Mods, there's always new Oblivion mods coming out. People still support this game. So if this remake doesn't support mods the same way, that might be a deal breaker for some people. Alright, let's get into my favorite part, what I've been waiting to talk about. And that is when it's being announced and how Bethesda is planning to reveal / release it. There have been a few different leaks suggesting that we might see the Oblivion Remake announced as early as next month, which at the time of me recording this, that means April, so in like a week, a little over a week. Some reports even claim that Bethesda might shadow drop it, meaning if you don't know what that means that it gets announced and released on the same day in most cases. That would be wild and completely out of character for Bethesda, except for the Fallout Shelter game. But it also kind of makes sense if they want to avoid too much early backlash or pressure. The other possibility is that it gets announced in a bigger showcase, maybe alongside updates on Fallout 76 or the Starfield DLC or the Nintendo Direct or something like that. If they go that route, they might drop a trailer next month, but hold off on the actual release until a little bit later, maybe a few months out or later this year. There are conflicting reports on whether this is a full remake or kind of a hybrid remaster. I'm kind of leaning towards hybrid, remake-ish, but more so leaning towards remaster. Some sources suggest that it could be using some assets from the original game, but upgrading others. That's kind of what like Capcom did with the Resident Evil remake. As for when it's coming out, the leaks point to a potential late 2025 or early 2026 release, and that kind of lines up with the idea that they'd announce it this year and then drop more trailers and details leading up to launch. But then again, nothing is confirmed, so don't be surprised if Bethesda changes plans or if this project just ends up getting delayed. It's Bethesda, okay? My hopes is that we see something in April, and hopefully by the end of summer we actually have the game. That's my hopes, and that's what most of the leaks are leaning towards. A lot of leaks actually are even saying announced beginning of April, out by the end of April. I mean, honestly, it's like the coin is still in the air right now. We don't know what it's going to land on. So is this a good idea, right? I mean, I guess that's the biggest question. Is this a good idea? At the end of the day, this could be one of the biggest RPG remasters ever, or it could be a disaster. If Virtuos Studios does a good job, in which I think they've done a good job in the past with other games, but if they do a good job, we could get a visually stunning, modernized Oblivion that keeps the charm of the original game. But if they fumble it, or if too much of the original game's soul is lost in the process, I mean, this might be another nail in the coffin for Bethesda, especially after that Starfield bullshit. But I won't get into that in this video, I promise. Maybe. No, I won't. I promise. Personally, this is just me. I think they are going to nail the balance between updating the gameplay, updating the visuals, and keeping the spirit of the original. I mean, I honestly believe that. I think they are going to strike a perfect balance because people have been asking for an Oblivion remaster / remake, like an official one, forever. People have been asking for it for so long. I'm going to be honest, I highly doubt it's going to be bad. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I could just be like projecting or something, or I could be hyping myself up or being foolish or naive, but I really think so. I really think it's going to be good. I also understand, though, why some fans might be skeptical, especially with, the recent track record of outsourcing projects like Fallout 76. Terrible launch, awful. That was kind of outsourced, kind of still within the Bethesda circle, but still kind of outsourced. But anyway, what do you guys think? Are you excited for the remaster? Do you think that Bethesda should just kind of leave it alone? Just let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe. It's good to be back. Sorry it took me so long to make another video. I've been moving and shit, life stuff. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.